as if, well, why aren't you making this better? But the school might be doing things behind the scenes or in front of the scenes, but they can't tell you, because they can't, in the same way that you wouldn't want information about your child's status in school released to anybody who calls, they can't tell you what they're doing with other children. But the reason I do ask that parents let the school know if a child's having a problem is because children do not necessarily reveal that this is happening to educators. They're a little bit more likely to tell parents. And so there could be a problem going on that is not being addressed because nobody knows about it. So it is important to share that with the school. In general, it's very, very hard to directly say to children, so tell me about the bullying that's going on in school. So tell me, who'd you hurt today? You know, you're not going to get direct answers. So I like to be indirect. I like to start out with a book, with a story, so we went to the movies together. What did you think of that movie? Does that stuff ever happen at your school? Or even better yet, how does that happen at your school? Because they'll all say, no, it doesn't happen at my school, not at my school. Okay, so what does bullying look like at RPRY? Not that it doesn't happen, because I don't believe there's a setting where it doesn't happen. I've already talked about being a good model. I never require two children who are having difficulty to directly talk to each other. In several decades of work as a clinical child psychologist, I will tell you that I never cease to be wonderfully surprised by children. They are marvelously unpredictable, and so even if I've coached a child to dutifully apologize to someone, even if I've rehearsed, I am terrified that what's going to happen when I put bully and victim together is I'm going to get, sorry, loser. I am really sorry I messed up your stupid birthday party. And so I never, ever put them together for a confrontation. I may have written apology, I may have taped audio, but I never do it in person because I don't want to be party to somebody's feelings being hurt again. Then I feel I lose all my credibility as protector. So I don't do that. I don't expect all adults to share my values. I know that there are, almost every time I speak, somebody comes up to me and says, Dr. Novick, with all due respect, I'm going to solve it. I solved it when I was a kid with this. I've told my son to solve it with this. This is what's going to do. Maybe one of you, I don't know, so one of you gentlemen want to do it, be the token person who comes up tonight and tells me that. It happens, and I have to just say, listen, I'm going to have to agree to disagree, but I will share with you the words of a 7th grade boy. Great wisdom, I thought. I love when I'm working with kids to be a little bit provocative and to challenge them. And this group of 7th grade boys, we're talking about whether it's chicken if you walk away from a fight. And I said, well, I mean, that's the idea. That's what men are told. You gotta stand your ground. You gotta fight, or you're a chicken. And this 7th grade boy says, I think you're chicken if you run away, but if you stand up and walk away, that's a man. And I've thought a lot about it, and I think he's right. And I think that if you were to speak to really good martial arts experts, really sound self-defense gurus, they would tell you that that really good self-defense training is about not engaging in the fight. It's about developing one's restraint and control and self-management to be able to walk away from an opponent. Find examples, positive examples. It's not easy. We live in a culture and a climate where you can be voted off the island, told that you're not the next millionaire, you're not America's great idol or voice or talent, or, and where we don't really celebrate just, people doing their regular jobs and the heroism of people who stand for others and help out others. A few years ago, remember there was a story of the guy who left his own children on the subway platform and dove onto the subway to save someone's life. Do you remember this story? It was a big story in New York. You better believe I was all over that story in every school I was in, saying, I'm not asking you to be heroic like that, but there's a bystander who gave up potentially everything in order to help. All we have to do sometimes is be a little uncomfortable. But at the same time, we can't minimize how difficult it is, how hard it is to really go out of our way to be nice, to think about other people's feelings, to care about the people in our world. I have contact information there, including my blog, and I found a wonderful vehicle, which is free. Parents can use it also, called Storybird. It's an online platform that you can write stories with professional artwork in it. So I love the power of stories with children. So some of mine on bullying are there. But I'll end with a story, and then take any questions. The first time I was doing bully prevention in a school, the teacher, a wonderful teacher, asked the 6th graders, would you like to give Dr. Novick some feedback? And I say this every single time I present. So at the end, she said, Dr. Novick, I went home after learning about bullying, and I told my mother I can't listen to her anymore. And I'm like thinking, oh, this is not good. This is really, I mean, lawsuits, I'm going to get sued. But she went on to say that my mother always told me that when you see trouble, you stay away from trouble. But I realized after learning about bullying that if I have a friend in trouble and I walk away, what kind of friend am I? And it's better. Because then if I see a human being in trouble and I walk away, what kind of human being am I? I want every one of us to have children who say those words to us. I want every one of us to have the wonderful opportunity, the schus, and the nachas, to have children who say to us, I am a human being. I don't walk away from other human beings in need. Thank you all so much. I'm open to your comments and questions.
Are you supposed to ignore the bully?
Who's the you?
The victim.
So the victim can firmly, gently stand up to a bully. In other words, the same way that my son said, oh, do that. Thank you so much. The same way my son said, you know, oh yeah, this is some accomplishment. Using humor is great. Self-deprecating humor is the best way. The trick is that you don't want to give the bully the illusion of power. So any response you give that makes it little. Like I'm working with a girl right now who, she can't get this. I'm really trying to get her to get this. The bully walks past her and says, oh, Shira, next time you're going to draw something, maybe you need art lessons. And I'm teaching her the formula that say agree and then make it little. Because anything else gives the bully power. I don't mean, when I say agree, I don't mean, yes, I'm such a terrible artist, isn't it terrible? I mean agree and make it little. Like, laugh it off. Yeah, I know, I wasn't Picasso today. Okay? So I'm trying to teach it to this 3rd grade girl, and what's her response? She says to me, okay, so today I told her, well, it's not my best work. I said, that's not agreeing. That's engaging in a struggle. You know, we agree. I had, like, took a long time to get her to understand the formula. Agree and minimize, you know, not. So the victim can respond in some ways. The trick is not to react in a way that engages the bully in, wow, this is fun, let me do some more. The people we don't want to ignore it and do nothing are the bystanders. Because I don't want to require or depend on every victim being able to stand up for themselves in every instance. Not every child has the wherewithal to do that. Not everyone has witty repartee. Not everybody can come up with the words. Some kids are like deer in headlight, you know, when somebody, so the fact is what the bystander group does is so powerful. Because if, again, my son over the garbage pail, if he hadn't said anything, but if a bunch of guys had come over and said, oh, come on, this is no fun, leave him alone, it would have stopped. It would have stopped it cold. Whereas if everybody was saying, do it, do it, do it, do it, they would, you know, the bully gets their power. So yes, the bystanders shouldn't ignore it, and yes, the victim should find a way to respond that isn't giving into the bully saying, oh my gosh, you're so powerful, I'm terrified of you, which is hard. One of the questions that was written in is what do you do when a child comes home and tells you something bad happened to me on the playground? You know, somebody did something to me. What do I do? You know, what should a parent's response be? So, you know, part of our job as parents is to be a little bit like, you know, the FBI and to engage children in telling you the whole story. Because when a child comes home, I don't know about you, but when my children come in the door and say, somebody was mean to me today, my first question is, and what did you do? You know, like, I assume that that story has a context. I don't assume my children are blameless. That's my, you know, that's just me. Or maybe it's my children, you know, just knowing that they can be a little bit funded, you know, like. But I want to know the whole story. Now, it's not always easy to get the whole story out of children. There are some children that come home and you get, well, then she said, and then she said, and then she went, and then she went. And you do get the whole story. 30 minutes later, you're still trying to write. And then there are other kids who said, I don't know, he just hit me. So, you know, as best as you can, try to piece together. I would never advise a child, again, to use aggression because it's not allowed and it's going to get your child in trouble. My preference for things that happen when I'm not there is not to directly tell a child what to do because I don't know the setting, but to engage together with the child in problem solving. Well, tell me, what are all the kinds of things that people do on the playground when this happens? Like, who else is there? What do other children do when somebody bothers them on the playground? Is there a teacher? Do they tell the teacher? Well, the teacher doesn't, you'll get this response sometimes, the teacher doesn't do anything, or the teacher tells me to go solve the problem myself. Well, not all adults are the same, so maybe you have to tell a different teacher. Maybe you have to tell somebody after recess. Maybe you have to ask for someone's help before recess. Maybe that's not the person you should play with. I would problem solve around what's the array of options available to us. And then I would when I engage either my own children, children I work with, children in schools, around a collaborative problem solving, I always make an appointment for when we're going to touch base and see how it went. So it might be the next day. You know, it might be, can you come back to me tomorrow and tell me how it went? Or it might be, you want to try that for the next couple of days? And, you know, today's Monday, let's talk on Thursday and see if it was a good idea. Maybe it wasn't a good idea. The reason I do that is twofold. One, it makes everything tentative enough that if I gave a really dumb advice, I can regroup and say, oh, well, you see, we knew that. I wasn't sure it was going to work. Thanks for the feedback. It also communicates that I'm there with you for the time, you know, for the long haul. And it also helps children understand that many of these problems are not fixed overnight. And it does take redo, redo, redo. And here we have, unfortunately, we have TV to thank, because in TV land, everything is solved in 30 minutes minus 5 for commercials. You know, every sitcom they watch sets up a social problem in the first 10 to 15 minutes and solves it all, and everybody is all good to go by the end of the credits. And that's not life. Life is much messier. So helping kids understand that is also important. Yeah.
When we talk about bullying, sometimes it's very easy to determine what is bullying when children are being pushed, shoved, or verbally abused. I think that sometimes the insidious form of bullying is the child, when we talk about the invisible child, the one who's always excluded, the one who's never invited to anything. And I think that, to me, I've seen it, you know, personally, but we're also creatures of habit. And we may be in a class, you know, children may be in a class of kids that they've gone to nursery school with, or kids who live on their block, or children who are parents who are friends with their parents,
Right.
so you hang out a lot together. And children always live what they see at home. They learn that, they model behavior. So I've made it a point, I don't get to shul as often as I'd like, but whenever I'm in shul, I always go and I speak with someone, talk to someone who's not one of my friends, not one of my normal, and I try to get to know them. And I realize there's a lot of really interesting people here who I would not have had an opportunity to get to know if I stuck with my normal circle of friends, people I know. And maybe that's something that ought to be modeled, because of how many kids who are excluded from a group just because they may not live in the same part of town where everyone goes to the same school, they may go to a different school, or maybe they live on a different block.
Right.
And no one thinks to invite them because no one ever really got to know them.
I think it's a really great point. I also think that there's a huge difference and a distinction that we have to accept, allow, and help children understand between going up to somebody in shul and having a conversation with them, which I would put under the category of being friendly, and forced friendship. In other words, I think that it is a school and a parent's right to say to your child, you have to be friendly to the universe of children in your grade. I demand friendly behavior to everybody in your grade. But I don't think we can say, I demand friendship with everyone in your grade. I have a school that I worked with where a parent was actually asking the school, saying, I want child X, you school, I want you to foster friendship with child X and child Y. We want that. We want you to help us make that friendship. And I said to the school, since when do we, we don't get to decide who the friends are. You can insist on friendly behavior, inclusive behavior, but we do have to realize that friendships have their own, mechanism. Now, that being said, there's a Quaker school near me that is very similar to a day school in that it pulls children from 4 different neighborhoods easily, 4 mostly, and like another 6, small numbers. And when I first was doing some consulting with this Quaker school, Friends Academy, they told me in the nursery program, they have mandated playing areas. Like you have assigned play. You are in the blocks with Ethel. You are in the truck area today 4 days a week. Your play and your lunch partners are assigned for kindergarten and nursery school. Only on Friday do you have free play. And I thought, boy, these Quakers are rigid. Boy, are they tough, so Germanic and rigid. And what they said to me was, if we don't integrate our children in kindergarten and first grade and break down the barriers of neighborhood, they will be in 4 separate groups by 12th grade. They're K through 12 school, preschool through 12. Said we have to get them familiar with each other because the mommies won't. The mommies are, the mommies from one town go to the same pool and the same club and the library, and so and to some extent where we live, that's not exclusionary. It's where your taxes allow you. Like I can't go to a different library. I can only go to my town library. So those are the natural groupings of these moms and kids, and we have to break the barriers. So I think schools can think about, and I think schools do it in terms of Shabbatons and programming on holidays and all different things that take kids out of their environment and say you have to be friendly with everyone, trips and things like that. As well as I will say, working with the teachers today, I found the teachers in the school quite sensitive to the issues of when group projects are assigned, when teams are made, when being aware of the fact of doing it in a way that didn't allow someone to feel left out. Is it 100% successful? It's hard. It's hard to do it so that you're always successful. But the teachers had a sensitivity to it that I found pleasant. I visit schools sometimes where teachers say, well, they just got to toughen up. If you don't like it, you have to get left out sometimes. That's life. Yeah, so you don't have to learn it at 2. Maybe we could make you a little sensitive. Thank you all so much. I have a few copies. I don't have many, but I have a few copies, probably enough for each family to take one of a guide for parents that was done at YU. It is on the website, so if you don't get a copy, and it's just so hard to navigate the YU website, if you find Azrieli Graduate School and find the school-university partnership and find publications, it's there. But there are copies here if you want. Thank you all so much. Have a great night.